Okay, sentence patterns now. So hopefully you've already watched the video on parts of speech. That is the order that I do suggest. Parts of speech first and then sentence patterns, because we're going to be using some terms and discussing sentence patterns that do overlap a little bit with parts of speech. Do keep in mind though that the sentence patterns, also often called the parts of the sentence, represent a completely different concept than parts of speech. There's some overlap in terminology, okay? But you want to have two separate categories in your mind, parts of speech and sentence patterns. And I'll explain a little bit more of that. All sentences follow a few basic patterns, and you are going to be required to identify the pattern of a complete sentence. So look at the sentence and say that one is subject, action verb, direct object, okay? You will also be asked to identify the various elements of the sentence. So point out the subject. All right, where is the direct object in this sentence? So you're going to have that applied in a couple different ways when you are tested. And at the end of the day, understanding sentence patterns will make you a better writer. And that may seem like a bit of a stretch, but it's really not. The better you understand the language you are speaking, the more you're going to be able to utilize that language in your writing. All right, y'all. This concept can be a little difficult, and a lot of people have not studied sentence patterns since maybe 8th or 9th grade. So I would be prepared to maybe watch this video more than once. It's going to take some studying, it's going to take some practice, but you can do it. I'm confident. All right, so first we're going to define all of our terms, okay? And this should not be hard. And these are things you do know and have learned, hopefully. The subject is what the sentence is about. The subject of the sentence will always be a noun or a pronoun. For example, Bob enjoys cooking gourmet meals for his girlfriend. So Bob is the subject of the sentence. It's about him. It's about what he does. There you go. A verb. All right, you're either going to have an action verb like run, swim, or argue, or a linking verb. And I went ahead and listed out the common linking verbs there is are, am, was, were, be, being, been. And it's actually really important for you to be able to recognize the difference between an action verb and a linking verb. That's going to help you a lot in identifying sentence patterns. So just make that clear in your brain. And every sentence has a subject and a verb. Those are the two most important components of sentence patterns. So here's an example of a verb in a sentence. Bob's girlfriend, Susie, enjoys eating. So there we have an action verb. She is happy with the status of their relationship. There we have a linking verb. A direct object is a noun or pronoun that receives the action of the verb. Okay, so direct object will always come after the verb. In this sentence, yesterday Susie ate a large chocolate cake. All right, so let's break it down a little bit more. The subject is Susie. Where's the verb? Ate. That's what Susie did. Susie ate. Now, what receives that action? What was eaten? All right, and that is the cake. Does that make sense? So the cake is receiving the action of ate. Susie ate the cake. And we'll look at more examples, but that's the definition of a direct object. An indirect object receives the direct object. So this is the person for whom the action is being done. And just a little rule of thumb here, a little note, the indirect object will always come before the direct object. So that's just always the pattern. So Bob also baked Susie scones for breakfast the next morning. So let's break it down again. Bob is our subject. Where's the verb? Baked. Bob baked. What got baked? All right, what's receiving that action? Did Susie get baked? No, the scones got baked. So the scones are the direct object. Now, who is receiving the scones? That's Susie. So she is the indirect object. Does that make sense? So you have to understand all the components and how they work together. A subject complement renames or describes the subject of the sentence. And a subject complement will always follow a linking verb. And that's why it's so important for you to be able to recognize the linking verb, because it will help you recognize the patterns that include a subject complement. Furthermore, a subject complement can be labeled either a predicate noun or a predicate adjective. And you may have actually been taught using those terms and not even heard the term subject complement. And you do need to be able to tell the difference between a predicate noun and a predicate adjective. But just so you know, they both fall in that category of subject complements. So there are two different types of subject complements. So let me give you a couple examples. Bob is an amazing boyfriend. So the subject is Bob. Our linking verb, remember this pattern will always have a linking verb, is, and then the word boyfriend is renaming Bob. It's a predicate noun. Bob is boyfriend. Now these other words, let me just take a minute here. There are always going to be other words in the sentence that aren't really part of the pattern. Any adjectives or prepositional phrases or adverbs, a lot of those, they're floating around in the sentence, but they're not a part of the integral pattern. Hope that makes sense. Another example, Susie is thankful to be dating him. So again, Susie is the subject, is the linking verb, and then the word thankful is describing Susie. The word thankful is an adjective, so here we have a predicate adjective. And then finally, an object complement, so another type of complement. It operates very similarly to a subject complement, but it renames or describes the direct object. And hopefully it's pretty intuitive that an object complement is always going to come after a direct object. I'll give you an example. Others consider them an ideal couple. So others is the subject. Others consider. There we have an action verb. Who or what is being considered. The word them is a direct object. And then the word couple, ideal couple, is renaming, it's describing them. So that is an object complement. All right, is your brain exploding yet? I know all this stuff, if you haven't learned it in a while, can make your brain explode. But that's okay. You have lots of time to figure this out. So all those terms work together to form 5 basic patterns. If you can believe it, all sentences fall into, sentences or independent clauses, fall into these 5 basic patterns. And just, again, another reminder that we are labeling the pattern of the sentence, and not every word will have a label. So you can have a sentence of 10 or 15 words, and we're just looking at the subject, the verb, and the direct object. So, pattern number 1, subject and verb. You can have a very short sentence, or you can have a sentence with a lot of prepositional phrases that really just has a subject and a verb. Now, for the purposes of explaining these 5 basic patterns, I'm giving you guys really short sentences, and then I'll give you some practice and we'll work our way up to longer sentences, but we're starting with very short sentences. So, dogs bark. Cats meow. That can be a complete sentence. Now you could add some prepositional phrases. Dogs bark all the time. Also, cats meow in the morning under the front porch. So it could be a longer sentence, but really the basic pattern of that sentence is the subject and a verb. The second pattern, subject, action verb, direct object. And you can see what I'm starting to do here is to use the abbreviations. And these abbreviations, SAV, DO, that's what you'll see on quizzes and tests. So just start acclimating yourself to recognizing that AV stands for action verb, DO stands for direct object, and a direct object will always come after an action verb. Always, always. These patterns don't vary. You can't change them. So I hope you are seeing it starting to come together, why it's so important for you to be able to tell the difference between an action verb and a linking verb. Because if a sentence has a linking verb as the primary verb, then there can't be a direct object. I hope that makes sense. All right, many people love dogs. So subject, action verb, direct object. However, a few people tolerate cats. So I hope you can see that the direct object is receiving that action. Dogs are receiving the love of people. Cats are receiving the toleration of people. And you'll notice I like to kind of pick a topic and just stick with it. And I'm a dog person and not really a cat person, so I hope you don't take personal offense if you love cats. I just am not a cat person. I love my dog. All right, let's keep going. Pattern number 3. Subject, action verb, indirect object, direct object. And as I mentioned before, these will always happen in that order. So you will always have the indirect object come before the direct object. So, all over the world, dogs give their owners joy. So dogs is the subject, give is our action verb. What is being given? Joy, right? So there's our direct object there at the end. And then who is receiving the joy? The owners. Unfortunately, cats give their owners scratches. Same pattern, just different example. Fourth pattern, subject, linking verb, subject complement. So this pattern number 4 is the only one that uses a linking verb. And if you remember, a subject complement can either be a predicate noun or a predicate adjective, and they both take that linking verb. So, golden retrievers are the friendliest dogs. So retrievers is the subject, are is our linking verb, and then dogs is a predicate noun, right? The word dogs is a noun, so it's a subject complement. It's renaming retrievers. Retrievers are dogs. So here we have a predicate noun. Cats can be mean. In this sentence, we have the subject of cats, the linking verb of be, and the subject complement, the word mean, is an adjective. So instead of renaming, we have describing. So in this sentence, we have a predicate adjective. And pattern number 5, last but not least. Subject, action verb, direct object, object complement. So these can get a little long. So dog owners consider, so subject, verb, consider. What is being considered? Their pets the best companions. So the word companion is renaming pets. That's what makes it an object complement. It renames or describes the direct object. Cat owners declare their pets. So owners is the subject. What are they doing? They're declaring. What is being declared? Their pets. And then here we have a compound, multiple words, and that does happen once in a while. Finicky and unreliable, 2 object complement adjectives there. So those 2 words describing pets. So those are the basics of sentence patterns, and I'm going to post a lot of practice for you guys. I'm going to post some worksheets, practice quizzes type things. I'm going to see if I can figure out, I use Kahoot. I don't know if you use Kahoot. I use Kahoot in the classroom. And so I'm going to see if I can figure out how to share that with you via Blackboard or via an email or something. So, but the best way to figure this stuff out is practice. So good luck.